to More Sewing with Michele. I'm your host, Michele Rank, and for the next about 20 minutes, I'm going to show you something really cool. They are folded star pin cushions. Let me bring them up real close. There you go. There's a close-up. I'll be showing you more later, but most people will see a folded star and think, oh my gosh, that is so difficult. There's no way that I'm going to get that done. And they may feel defeated before they even buy or purchase or go forward. But the pattern that I have for you today is made by Plum Easy. And did you hear the name Easy in the title? These are a cinch to make. And I'm going to show you lots. So once again, the folded star, it's a pin cushion, and these ones are pretty big. And they're filled with the crushed walnut shells, which keeps your pin sharp. But I'll be going over so much more in just a little bit. I've got demos, and I've got a lot to show you. So let's get going on More Sewing with Michele. Okay, so let's talk about these folded star pin cushions. Now, a folded star is actually a traditional quilt block that's been around for a long time. But with this process that we have, from Plum Easy, they actually have a lot of patterns to make it super, super easy. And to be completely honest, years ago when I first started quilting, I fell in love with this pattern that had a folded star, and I talked myself out of it. So that's why I'm saying I know there's other people out there that are like, uh-oh, too difficult, not going to try it. But with this process that Plum Easy has come up with, anyone could do it. It really is that easy. So the first thing is Plum Easy we have two different products for you today. We have the actual pattern, and then we also have a 3-pack of the interfacing templates. And they are already pre-marked. It's made it so super easy for you to get these done. Now, I've got lots of videos and lots of demos to walk you through it. But you really don't need it once you read the instructions. The templates come like this. So it has all of the areas that you need to be concerned with. And their instructions in here are super easy to follow. And as you know, as I've stated many times before, I do not really follow in the instructions most of the time. I kind of just look at something and I kind of figure out how to do it. But with this, you are going to want to follow the instructions because some of them, even though it's super easy to get done, it can be a little technical. But we have lots of pictures, which is always a plus for me anytime I have a pattern. Having a picture to show me, because oftentimes I will look and read a pattern when I actually am reading a pattern, and I will literally stop and go, what are they trying to tell me? Because the way one person writes a pattern and another way another person actually reads that pattern, you can have different ideas as far as where you're going with it. So that's why I like that we have pictures. And look at all these pictures that they have with the pattern. Isn't that awesome? So I love this Plum Easy folded star pin cushion. And let me show you real quick the two of them up close. Get these out of the way. Now I have this one. You can see they're about 1.5 inches high. It's got a button on the back and the front. So it kind of does a tufted thing, but they're nice and squishy. And the reason is because one of the things that we're using to stuff them with is the ground walnut shells, which they don't stink, they're cleaned. But what they do is they give a little bit of heft to your pin cushion, but not super heavy. Like if you were to fill these up with sand, that would make these really heavy. But these are great. I've been using crushed walnut shells for a long time in my pin cushions, and I love them. And I love that this package that they have for us here by Plum Easy, one of these basically fills this. I ended up with just a little bit that I did not get in mine. So you're going to want for each pin cushion you make at least one packet of the crushed ground walnut shells. So let me show you the other one. This is just a different colorway. So we have little houses on the side, but aren't they cute? I just love them. Now I've got another one that I'm going to be showing the process with. So you have 3 to kind of inspire you as far as colors. But let me talk real quick about the tools you're going to need. And a lot of them, if you've been watching or purchasing from More Sewing with Michele, you already have them. So an 1/4 ruler is going to make it really easy for trimming up once you get everything folded, you're going to want to use your Quilter Select fabric glue pen. Use mine a lot. And once again, that professional tool turner. You're going to want a needle and some thread, as well as some embroidery floss. Now, this is the one that's kind of wound together, so you're going to want something that doesn't fray. So there's the type that's wound together, kind of braided, and then there's the regular embroidery floss that you separate. You're going to want the one that's kind of braided. And then you're also going to want, once again, the crushed walnut shells, some really good pins, and also, like I said before, you're going to want to get the pattern as well as the templates. And for your machine, a 1/4 inch foot with a flange, as well as your walking foot. So those are the kind of tools that you need. The threads, the fabrics, that's completely up to you. But let me get going with some of the demo. Okay, couple things that I forgot to share with you. You're going to want to have a funnel as one of the tools. And this one I actually stole out of my kitchen. But it makes it easier to get the crushed walnut shells into your folded star pincushion once you've got it put together. And the other thing that you're going to want is a very long upholstery noodle. And you can see that's where I've added my embroidery floss. And that is to attach the button from the top to the bottom to make the tufted thing. So you're going to need a long embroidery needle. And let me talk really quick about the patterns. Now, the first pattern that you would pick up would be the main one. And that one comes with one of the templates in it. But I know you're just like me. And once you make one of these super Plum easy folded star pincushions, you're going to want to make more for your friends or for Christmas or whatever. And that's why we have the second package of 3 additional templates. The instructions are all in the first one. You're going to want the templates to make more of them. So we've got those products. And just so you know, you can always go to moors-sew.com and you can go to my landing page and you can purchase all of the products that I have here today, as well as the tools and additional things you make to make the folded star pincushion. And you can also click on the link in the description where you can go to the Moors Sewing with Michele landing page too. So you got 2 ways, moors-sew.com, as well as clicking on the link in the description. And with that said, let's get going. Okay, let's get going into the demo and the instructions part for these folded star pincushions. Now, you will see, remember I told you that I had a third one that I'm working on. This is my 3rd colors that I'm working on. And you can see I've already done a lot of the prep work, but I'm going to backtrack and I'm going to go through all the different steps with you. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that you pick fabrics that have some high contrast. You don't have to, things can kind of mute together, but what I like is for the folded star part, and let me hold it really close so that you can see. I like having lots of contrast. Now on this one, you'll see that the white ones where I made the prairie points, those I actually use some of my scraps. Shocking, I use my scraps, but and actually this whole thing is made from my scraps, this particular pincushion. But you're going to want to make sure that you have all the pieces ready to go, and let's get going and I'll let you know how to put it together. So once you get this wonderful pattern, you will see that you have that one template, and with that you're going to want to pick your fabrics, get everything cut out, and then the first thing you're going to do is the folding. Now to make these stars, you're going to want, let me show you real quick up close. So you can see that these, you can actually stick your fingers into these. So that's folded star, but those folds you can actually penetrate. And that's one of the things that make these so cool. So in order to do that, you're going to take your fabrics and first you're going to fold them in half and give a nice crease. Now once you do that, you'll see that you can also then fold the sides in to make that triangle, and then give it a nice crease there too with your iron. Press it nice and flat. And you're going to do that for all 8 pieces to make the star. So that's the first step. Now the second step, you're going to want to take your, you have you're going to have 2 pieces of 5-inch fabric. And this is the fabric that I have for the actual star. And in the pattern, it requires you to make a circle. Now on mine, I just used some 5-inch pre-cut charm packs that I had. And then I just simply rounded the corners and then put them both down. You're going to want to make sure that you have 2 pieces of fabric that you have for that base of the star, because it's going to give it more support, especially because we have the pin going through. So you're going to want to make sure the 2 fabrics. And then what I did was use that wonderful Quilter Select glue stick, and I attached both of them together and then onto the template. Now you'll see that you have that there. And then here's where the fun begins. You're going to take those folded stars, the prairie points, and you're going to line them up. Now look at the pattern. If you look at the foundation sheet, you will see that it has lines precisely showing you where to put them on the fabric. Now I use that glue stick once again to make sure that once I put them down, they stayed put. And I definitely went from top to bottom, sides, and I made sure that my points lined up so that they weren't slightly askew, because on something this small, your eye's going to notice if those points aren't direct. And what I mean by that is your eyes will notice if the points on the star are not pointing the right direction. So take your time, make sure you get those prairie points in the right area. So once you get those down, you're going to go ahead and you're going to put your walking foot on your machine. And what I did was I sewed, I'm going to bring this one up here real quick. Whoops, got my needle with me. You can see that on this one, let me hold it real close. You can see that I did some white stitching, and that's what you're going to do next. You're going to stitch just a hair's distance away. So it's not stitch in the ditch, it's kind of stitch by the ditch. And you're just going to add some securing stitches around your prairie point to make sure that they're nice and precise. Now on this one, you can see that I used a thread that was not going to stand out. So the choice is completely yours. Let me hold both of them up here. You can have coordinating thread, or you can have thread that shows. It's completely up to you which way you want to go. So once you get that down, you're going to end up with this. So I've got the prairie points down, and then I've went ahead and I've added the side pieces. Now, if you watch the video on that, you're simply going to take one of your 4 pieces of the 6x6 squares, and you're going to line it up in the corner. And what I like to do is put it down. You're going to do face down in the corner, and I like to add my pins. Keep in mind, you're going to want to keep the pin out of the area that you're going to sew. So once you got it pinned, the fabric in place, I like to do both sides at the same time, and then turn it over, and that gives you that line to sew on. Now you're going to start on line number 1, and you're going to sew in between the 2 dots on your template. Keep in mind, you don't want to go beyond it. You want to stay in between the 2 dots, and you're going to secure both of those, and then you're going to repeat it on the other side. And when you're done, you're going to open up your flaps, and you'll end up with this, where you have the sides put together as well as the star. So from there, you're going to give it a nice press, and then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to square up your block. And basically, you want it to be 8.5 all the way around. Take your time squaring it up because there are multiple layers. You want to make sure that your ruler doesn't shimmy away from you and that you end up with an actually, something that's completely plumb and 8.5 by 11. It's going to be important that things are squared up correctly. Now, this is the next part, and it's where I'm at here. And this one is a little bit technical, but not difficult. It's a matter of taking your time, really reading these instructions. And the next part that we're working on is right here, where we are going to, let me see if I can get it, there we go. We're going to fold our piece in half. So I'm going to take right sides together, and I'm going to fold it in half, and then I'm going to line up the sides, and I'm going to pin. Now on the foundation paper, you will see that there is a diagram that shows you exactly where to pin and where you're going to be sewing. And that's what we do next. So I am going to line mine up, and then I will do my pinning. And once again, whenever I pin, I keep the tips of my pin out of the way so that it does not interfere with the actual sewing. Now the center part here, it's a little bulky. So what I like to do, let me get this one pinned. Bring it up close. You'll see where I added the pins. So it's really bulky here because that's where all the folded star is. But what we are going to do, there's a pattern here. You're going to sew here and to the end, just like that. And you'll see that I did that on my demo piece. Okay, so like I said, we folded it in half. I secured and I pinned that side, and then you're going to want to do the other side, and it's super easy. Let me show you up close. Once again, you see that it shows you exactly where you're going to want to be sewing on both sides. Now keep in mind, you want to make sure that you have it like this so that you can open it up, and then we're going to fold it together and do the last two sides. So that's the beauty of making these pin cushions is it does the mitered corners for you. Now I'm going to go ahead and do that, but you're going to see it in the demo. And I don't trim any of this extra stuff off before I birth it. And also, you're going to just keep the paper in the pin cushion too. You don't need to remove any of it. I simply left everything together. So let me go ahead and sew up my next pieces, and I'll be right back. Okay, so as you can see, I finished mine, and it makes this kind of funky looking pyramid thing. The key that you want to make sure is that you leave an opening in the top for you to put the funnel in and add your crushed walnut shells. So with that said, you can see the video how I did it, but that's the important part. And let me show you real quick. Like I said, I leave the paper on, and these are all just kind of out there. And then I birth it, turn it to the other side, and then you're going to add, once you get it birthed, you're going to use your professional tool turner that you see, and I'm going to pop out the corners, make sure that they're nice and precise, those corners. And you can use your finger to kind of pop things out too. And then you're going to keep doing that, smooth it out until you get everything nice and flush. And then what I like to do is I like to add that top button now. So the top button would be this one. You're going to use your extra long embroidery needle, and I like to sew the top part in place. So I'm going to go back and forth, make sure that top button is in place. And then I like to pull the tail out, leave it between the opening, and then I like to whip stitch on the closing almost completely closed before I start putting any of the crushed walnut shells in. It just makes it easier for me to make sure that when I'm putting the crushed walnut shells in, it's easier and nothing's going to be coming out. And then you simply put your funnel in, take your time adding all your crushed walnut shells, and then once you get that done, you're almost done. I then whip stitch everything closed with that needle and the thread hanging out. Once I get it completely sewn shut, then I go back through the center of it, go around the top button, come back to the back, and then I sew the back button in place, like so. So it creates that tufted part, but that way the top button is nice and secure, and then you get the bottom button too also nice and secure. And then what do you know? You're basically done. Now, aren't these fun and easy? I love my folded star pin cushions. And the other one, I don't have quite finished yet, but I will in the closing. So as you can see, I went ahead and birthed my last one. I've got my opening, and then all that's left, like I said in the videos, is you add your funnel, fill that up with your crushed walnut shells, and they really can look quite strikingly different. On this one, I'm going to use a very large black and white button so that it's really going to make that metallic fabric show. So once again, here's a really cool product for you to create, the folded star pincushions by Plum Easy. And it's been my pleasure once again to have you join me for more Sewing with Michele. Don't forget to click on the link in the description where you can go to purchase the patterns as well as all of the products that you need to finish it. Or you can go to moors-sew.com. It's been my pleasure. I hope you have a fabulous week, and I will see you next Monday at 10 a.m. Bye-bye.